Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. I wanted to make a video. If you watched the intro video, you would have seen that we had talked about doing just a summary video of some of the different projects that we have going on. I'm going to start with the customer car that we're working on because this should be the first vehicle that we actually complete. This is for a friend of mine. He's had this car for quite some time. I want to say he's had it since high school, but if it hasn't been since high school, he's had it for quite a number of years. So it's a 1968 Firebird. This is it here behind me. And I'm going to do a little bit of a walk around so you can see a little bit more in depth of what's going on with the car, things we have completed and things we still have yet to do. And we're probably, I would say, about a little over a third of the way in this project. So there's still going to be quite a bit of content coming when it comes to this car. But again, this is not our car. This is just a friend of mine's that asked us for some help. So Annie and I have been working on this, primarily me. There's just a few things that she's not quite ready for yet, but I've tried to have her be involved, even if she's not physically doing it, to where she's either assisting me in doing something, or whether it be just giving an explanation of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and how I'm doing it, so she can still get some knowledge from it. One of the things that I really enjoy is the fact that the two of us work together as much as we do. One, gives me an opportunity to spend quite a bit more time with her. The other reason that I really enjoy it is because she has a genuine interest in it. This is not something that I have pushed on her in any way. And I think that it's all going to become useful whether she does it in any type of fashion in her career or if it's just for her general knowledge. I think that this is something that she's going to continue to have a hobby with, for quite some time. So all of this stuff, just like as I come up and I learned with my father, some of the stuff you're going to retain, a lot of it you're going to retain because you maybe see it more than once, but there's a lot of things that she may forget until she sees it again, but at least seeing it at all is going to be somewhat beneficial. So I really enjoy that she's out here and helping me, even if it's not our vehicle. So try to give her as much as I possibly can hands-on. And so far, up until recently, she's helped me out and had her hands on just about everything as much as I have when it comes to this Firebird. So a little bit about the car. This car originally, from what I was told, was an original 400 car. It's always been an automatic. When it comes to the Pontiacs, if you've got the 400, I want to say that it came with a turbo 400 trans, but I'm not 100% sure. I know that GM did a lot of sharing with things. So this would have been a big block car with an automatic, and it had a 12-bolt rear end, which the 12-bolt that was in this car was long gone, quite some time ago. I'm pretty sure that after years of abuse behind that big block that it probably didn't survive, but it is long gone. There is another rear end that is in the car currently, but it is a 10-bolt, and it was just put in here to be able to move the car around. So the 400 is also long gone. That was blown up, and then there was a Chevy engine that was put in this car, a small block, and it's always been an automatic car. And when all of these things happened when he was younger, he put the car in storage. He went away, did a bunch of things for his career. The car sat, and now has a rejuvenated interest in trying to get it back on the road to be able to enjoy it. So with all of the stuff going on, this is a street application. This is not going to be a dedicated race car. This is just something that's fun to drive, that's easy to drive, that has creature comforts in it. So this car will have a lot of modern day technology put into it, and it is going to have a lot of the creature comforts. It's going to have AC, it's going to have cruise control. It has electronic fuel injection. So I'm going to start with the engine, and what I'm going to do is I'll put the hood up here in just a bit, but I want to do just a brief overview before I go and do the walk around. And then that way, there'll be a way to look at something in more detail that I've kind of already touched on, so I don't have to sit there and explain every little thing at that particular time. So the engine in this car now is a 5th generation GM aluminum small block. It's the LT family of engines, and this particular one is an LT4. So that is a supercharged 6.2 liter that can be found in a stock application in the C7 Z06, the ZL1 Camaro from 2016 and up, as well as the Cadillac CTS-V from 2016 and up as well. This engine is almost 100% aluminum. The crankshaft and rods are the only thing in the rotating assembly that are steel, and they are forged pieces. The block is aluminum, the heads are aluminum, the intake manifold is aluminum, the supercharger case and everything is aluminum. So it is even though it is a supercharged application, it is a very lightweight package. This particular engine that's in this car it was a crate engine, but it was the way that it would have been configured in a Camaro or a Cadillac CTS-V. And why that makes a difference is for people who don't know, the Corvette that got these engines, it was a dry sump system. So this particular engine that's in this car is a wet sump, and that was the biggest difference between the two. Other than that, those engines are completely the same. So the oil is all contained in the oil pan. There's a sump in the oil pan that contains the oil, and then from there it goes into the oil pump and pumped throughout the engine. Whereas in a dry sump, it would have a separate remote oil tank and an external oil pump that would actually pump oil into the engine from outside. And why that would be is the Corvette is designed more as a road racing car, and in extreme conditions, hard side-to-side movements, front-to-back movements, the oil tends to slosh to either the left or right or front under hard braking. Therefore, the pump will actually starve for oil and can actually pump air instead of oil, causing, engine failure prematurely. So the Corvette got the dry sump. This is not a dry sump application. Like I said, it is a wet sump. So this has a conventional oil pan that stores the oil down underneath in the bottom of the engine. And the oil pump is internal as well. It's driven off the crankshaft. So this is the best way to be able to put something that is newer like that into the older platform, because there's not a lot of extra work or plumbing. All that stuff is extra weight also. So it is kind of nice to where you can just get the fitment correct and get it bolted in without having the hassle of dealing with the dry sump system. If you needed it, then absolutely that could be done because the parts are already out there. So it could be converted over to a dry sump if the customer chose. But in this application, it will remain wet. The transmission that's behind this engine is a 4L80E. It's a Turbo 400 based automatic transmission that does have overdrive and is electronically controlled. That makes it very nice for the ease of not having to fiddle around with a throttle valve adjustment, all the things that you would have done on the early overdrive transmissions that were all mechanical. There was a lot of adjustments and things that were, if you didn't have them right, that could end up causing damage. So being electronically controlled, it's fairly plug and play. Obviously this car didn't come with all those electronics, so we're going to integrate all of that stuff as well. The rear end in the car, like I said, is not the stock rear end, and this is going to get an aftermarket Ford 9-inch. In fact, we're getting ready to order that probably tomorrow or the next day. There will be a 9-inch going in that is coming from Quick Performance, I believe, and that should be just a direct bolt-in unit. So it will take into consideration all the dimensions from the stock application applied to the stronger and bigger housing. We get to choose gear ratios, or wheel stud size, axle spline count, all these things that you get to custom make it the way you want it. But at the end of the day, it's as simple as unbolting the old one and putting the new one in, filling it with oil, and you're ready to go. So that's the route that we're going to take. The engine in its current form is just under 700 horsepower, just under 700 foot-pounds of torque. So it is a very powerful unit. Even though it's a small, lightweight package, it does pack quite a punch. So we're going to make sure that the transmission, the drive shaft, and the rear end are up to the task. So there's upgrades going on in all of those areas just for that reason. The reason he decided to go with this engine is just for, like what we talked about, being able to have the creature comforts. You're not going to get a ton of economy, but when you compare it to the old school big block that used to be in this car, the economy is going to be quite a bit better with a lot more power. There's no more carburetor to mess with, so the electronic fuel injection is going to be nice. He can start this thing up no matter the temperature outside, not have to make adjustments. The computer will do that for him. So I will go ahead and do a little bit of a walk around. The only other thing that I didn't cover that we're doing on this car is steering, suspension, brakes all the way around, as well as wiring the entire car. And there will be just a little bit of interior work that'll kind of finish things up. The car, after I'm finished with it, is going to go to another gentleman who's going to do a complete repaint on this thing. So it'll get all the body work done, panels gapped perfectly, and then it's going to get repainted. So it should be a really, really nice car when it's all said and done. But I'll go ahead and show you guys what's going on under the hood. All right, so walking around to the front of the car. It's got the 400 hood on it. It's got the ram air scoops. Like I said, this is a 68. There is some older aftermarket headlights in the front of this car. Those are going to get changed out for some more modern LEDs. Those are when the LEDs first came out, that's what you got. And they're kind of yellowed and they're just kind of gaudy looking. So we're going to go to an original appearing headlight that will be LED. So a lot brighter, a whiter light, but not obnoxious. So I'll go ahead and I'll pop this open and give you a glimpse of that LT4, which is there. This one being supercharged, like I said, the LT1 is very similar. It's a 6.2 naturally aspirated, is not supercharged. So the nice thing about this one, and most of the modern supercharged applications coming from the factory, all have a bypass valve on them. And what's nice about the bypass valve, which is this thing right here, when you're in part throttle operation or at idle, that supercharger is not even under positive pressure at all. It's not like the old school ones where when it was turning, it was making boost. This one does, but it has to see a load. That's what the bypass valve does. It closes a flap inside there and allows the air to go through the rotors and actually be compressed and forced into the motor. So when you're in part throttle or in idle, that flap is open and that air is allowed to bypass those rotors and go right into the engine, almost like a naturally aspirated application. So the nice thing about it is you're not sitting there losing all that fuel economy when you're just cruising or when you're sitting at a stoplight. So you get the economy a little bit better, even though you get the advantages of the supercharger and the power that it makes. Being all aluminum, lightweight, having that feature. This is direct injected, like I said. So on these, the injectors fire directly, they're underneath these covers, and they fire directly into the cylinder. We are going to be using these factory exhaust manifolds. They're a factory shorty header. They run the first two cylinders into one merge, and then the back two into a merge, and then those two actually go down to the collector. So it's a pretty unique setup, and we're going to build custom exhaust from that flange down there all the way back under the car. We're going to follow the factory location and run it all the way out the back, probably a pair of Flowmasters or something similar. We still have to put a heater core in this car, so the heater box will come out. But all in all, like I said, it's a work in progress. And we're just we just finished the mock-up. We're doing the front accessory drive now. It will have, like I said, AC. It has the alternator sitting over on this side. Power steering pump is right below it. And we don't have the pulley on yet. And the water pump will live in the gap right there. The water pump's actually sitting on the bench. And there's some adapter plates that will allow that to keep the correct spacing to work off of the same as everything else in this kit. So one of the biggest things that we did prior to getting this engine in here was we did all the steering, suspension, and brake components. And it's got tubular upper and lower control arms in it. You can see the back side of the uppers there is billet crossbars, polyurethane bushings. It's all really good stuff. Everything's been kind of rust treated and painted. There's, you know, like I said, being in mock-up and fab right now, there's going to be a little bit of dirt on things, but all in all, there's quite a bit of room in there. Even with that, that's a fairly large small block, especially with all the accessories and everything else, but there's still quite a bit of room to work in there, which is kind of nice. Now, if this was an AC car, you'd probably have a little bit less space over here, and I don't know what the interference would be with that AC box, but for this application, it works out well. The wiper motor does fit with no problem. We still have brake master cylinder and things to put in, but that's all happening here in the near future. That's what's going to be some of the most current work that we're doing. I do have the radiator and everything to go in this as well. Here's a little bit better shot of some of the stuff with the suspension, the steering. And again, this car's up on jack stands. I don't have a lift. If I had a lift, I'd give everybody a little bit better look, but QA1 shocks, tubular control arms, upper and lower. It does have all new ball joints, tie rods. That's all factory replacement stuff. Polyurethane bump stop on the lower control arm. It does have stock small block Firebird springs in it. So everything is just being done. It's going to sit stock ride height. It's not going to be super low. It does have these American Racing aluminum wheels on it. These are 17-inch wheels. We did upgrade the tire size just a little bit to give it, it had some low profile tires on it, so we stuck these on there. These are a 215/55 17 in the front. And then he's going to a, it's like a 275 in the rear. But it's a pretty nice overall look. And he's got some seats in here. I want to say are out of an Audi or a BMW. Let me get my light. And again, we haven't done anything inside, but it's got some pretty nice seats in it. A lot of adjustability. There is a roll bar in the car already. But we're going to go through, we're going to tack down the carpet the way it needs to be. The center console, we've got some replacement parts for that because that's been kind of hacked up. There's an aftermarket gauge cluster there that's full of autometer gauges. And then the stock one is still in there, obviously. So it's just a little bit of restoration in here, as well as all the electrical that has to be done. The back seat is still in the car. It's just full of boxes at this point. We've got parts all over the place. The entire trunk's full. But the car is in very, very good shape. There's no Bondo on the car. It's got its flaws, but like I said, it is going to go and it's going to get repainted. I really like the 1968 having the Pontiac insignia for the marker lights. I thought that was always a really nice touch of why the 68 is my favorite year. I know the 69 is probably more popular, but I really enjoy the little details like that. So like I mentioned, the 9-inch rear end will go out back. The drive shaft's out of it, currently getting built. Upgraded U-joints. But just like a simple walk around view. See if I can get the whole car in here. There you go. So all in all, it's a pretty involved project. We're doing the entire drive line, the wiring on the complete car, cooling system, completely new fuel system, steering, suspension, brakes, and we're basically going through this entire car minus the paint and the bodywork. And I started this project about a year ago, and then we worked on it for a couple of months, and then I had to take a pause because we ended up moving to this shop. I know my family and friends know, but we all picked up and moved. So we're just getting back started on this. We started on this car again a couple of weeks ago. So the idea is to be able to have this car done by the end of March. That's the goal. So we've got a lot of work to do in a short amount of time, but I'm pretty sure between me and Annie, we'll be able to get it done. All right, now that we've walked around the car, I hope that gives everybody kind of a better idea of what it is that we're working on. As I get parts and as we're doing work, we'll do more video content on the things that we actually are going to do from this point forward. So there will actually be some footage of us hands-on. There's probably going to be some time-lapse footage, and we'll kind of explain things as we're going and what what we're getting and why we chose what we did and how we go about making this whole thing come together. I look forward to everybody's comments. You know, and we will read them all. If there's people watching this and you have questions, or you think you got a similar project or something, you know, ask away. We're all about trying to interact with people on this platform too. So, you know, if you like the project, if you like the video, you know, like the channel, subscribe to it if you haven't already, because believe me when I tell you, this is obviously just the second video. There's going to be a lot more to come. Things will get better. We'll get more comfortable in talking to you guys, talking to the camera here, but it's going to be pretty exciting, especially come springtime. We start getting this car, and the next video that I'm going to do is on the Camaro, and I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy that. I probably put a little sneak peek at the end of this video, but subscribe and follow us along, because there's going to be some pretty cool stuff coming. Thanks for watching. See you next time. All right, sneak peek time. There's the Camaro. It's mostly under wraps, but if you can see that carburetor and you can see where the windshield's at, it's pretty cool stuff going on in there. So next feature video will probably be on this car here. Thanks again for watching, everybody.